A few months ago, companies were falling over themselves trying to pay huge salaries for artificial intelligence talent, but a new study now suggests that companies are looking to develop AI talent internally. Is the AI gold rush for talent over? We're going to look at what's going on in this space on this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Joining me on the show today is Gustavo Alba. He is the global managing partner for the technology and services practice at Heidrick & Struggles. Welcome to the show, Gustavo.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
And you guys did a recent survey that suggests that companies are now looking to develop this AI talent internally versus external recruitment. And there was also a lot of high-profile news around top tier talent and exorbitant salaries. I think I remember the big one was Netflix was paying like $900,000 a year for some AI talent. But we haven't really seen much in the previous months. So can you talk a little bit about the survey and what you were looking for your clients and the types of people that were answering the survey?
Yep. No, happy to, Keith. So the survey and what we are trying to accomplish, and we do this quarterly, where we send out a anonymous survey to our technology clients and executive candidates. And the goal there, Keith, is to get a sense from them on where they're investing when it comes to talent and human capital within AI, specifically on this survey. And I would say a couple of headlines that were interesting. I don't know if surprising, maybe a consistent theme is this stays very much front and center around the priorities of technology organizations. But to your earlier point, what we did see was a spike of internal mandates, so internal talent addressing some of the AI capabilities. But to be fair, we saw growth across all the segments. So the kind of internal champions, internal development spiked up plus 8-9%, but we also saw the use of external consultants spike up, another plus 6-8%. We also saw the use of external recruiting spike up, not as much as the internal, but definitely spiked up. So our takeaway is this continues to be a priority for organizations. And as they're all kind of sorting out how to address it, you're seeing all the levers being pulled: internal talent, external consultants, and hiring as well.
All right. Well, so I never let stats get in the way of a good headline or a good pitch. So I do want to focus a little bit on that first big spike. Now again, the drops that you saw there was a 3% drop in engaging on-demand talent. What's the difference between on-demand talent and then maybe working with external partners or vendors? Is it just that they weren't looking for someone outside, like a third party or fourth party?
That's right, Keith. So think about it this way: a third party, a consulting organization, IT services organization, they will contract them to solve a specific problem. We need to integrate a system, and there's a certain kind of fee for that, and that IT services or consulting firm organizes a project team to deliver on that initiative. On-demand talent is specific in working with the organization directly on that specific project. So either are you going to use a third party to address it, or are you going to directly a project base this team to kind of solve it directly with you?
Were you able to get a sense of why companies were looking internally? Was it because they maybe they didn't want to pay these high salaries, or just the talent pool out there might not be what they wanted? Was there some kind of other shift going that said, well, maybe we should just take our own people and train them, and then we won't have to pay them as much? That's the cynical side of me. But I've always been a big fan of people that hire within their own company, so I should be celebrating this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's good point. So I think it's important, Keith, let's separate. I think it's important to bucket this different talent pool and some of the data we're seeing.
Okay.
So let's call archetype 1, which is AI native talent, AI technical talent. Archetype 2, technology talent. And then archetype 3, let's put everybody else. Okay. You and I and others, right? On the archetype 1 AI technical talent, native talent. So these are their data engineers, software engineers that are doing work in the LLMs for OpenAI, AWS, and others. Not a lot of supply, still a lot of demand, and we're seeing that in the through line of compensation. So that remains, and you mentioned the other example. We did a survey in 2023, and I think we came in somewhere around 1.1, 1.2 million for the average executive in that AI archetype one. So still highly compensated.
That's the salary?
That's compensation that equals
plus benefits? Yeah.
Equity
Okay.
and long-term incentive. Exactly
All right.
But but headline, that continues. So that has not gone away.
Right.
I think what's interesting and shifted a bit, I would say over the last 6 months, which we can talk about, Keith, is when we initially hit the wave of AI, and let's call it inning zero of it, a year and a half or so, I think there was this maybe sense of, are we going to have this almost wave of demand of that first archetype, those AI native data engineers, research scientists, right? PhDs.
Right.
Are we going to need them in every organization doing all these technical work? And I think what's happened over the last 18 months, and this answers your question of the internal side, is I think the technology is so good in we're figuring out its ease of use and use cases that what you're seeing is organizations are then saying, wait a minute, unless I am building an LLM and a technical operating machinery around it, most of the business cases other organizations are using are leveraging it on top of ChatGPT and Claude and others,
right.
And Microsoft Copilot. So that gets us into archetype 2, which is the technical talent. Think about CIOs, CTOs. These are skill sets we've had over the last 20, 30, 40 plus years. That talent is translating the AI technology and applying it in businesses.
Okay.
What are going to be business models? That's quote unquote your internal training,
right.
How to leverage the tool.
And that's the archetype 2, and that's where we're seeing internal talent being developed?
Correct.
Okay.
And I think we're all being blown away a bit by the use of the tool. And archetype 3, the rest of us, are learning to kind of apply it in our day-to-day efforts, right? So you're seeing content creators, you're seeing executive recruiters, you're seeing wealth management advisors, all kind of applying it as well. That third pool is incredibly important because that kind of training and use cases of how to apply it as a co-pilot or an agent in doing, that's where you're seeing a lot of, I think this maybe surprise in a way, I would say, Keith, because it's not so much you need the technical tools there. It's now about how do you apply that technology and leverage it in what you do, and how do you retrain yourself to kind of be kind of AI enabled day to day.
All right. So there was another. So within the survey, you also had another question that I thought was interesting, where you were asking them the challenges that a lot of these companies are having in terms of building their AI expertise, whether it's internally or looking for expertise. And 38% said that there are too few people with AI expertise available at any level. So that's almost across the 3 different levels, right?
Well, think about that. I would say that that AI expertise, my sense is folks are answering it on that first.
Or that first level, the really, really high end.
Really high end technical talent, where an organization might need it or might feel they need to use it. Too much demand, not enough supply at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
33%, so 1 in 3 said that there are too few leaders who can combine that AI and business expertise. And you've already mentioned, so that would imply that second level, I think, that you were talking about.
I would say that second and third.
Second and the third. Okay. So it's not just CIOs and CTOs that have that business experience, needing more AI experience. It's also those well, I was going to say it's almost those AI experts that need business expertise, but I guess that's not an issue. Or maybe it is.
Well, it's a good point.
Yeah.
So I think what's coming next and where we're at is take other executive, the chief revenue officer or a chief financial officer, right? And are they able to kind of figure out how to co-create with the technology for their organization, Keith? So if you take a chief revenue officer of an organization, are there things he or she should be applying in their function that they're not because this tool allows you to?
Yeah.
Is there things they can do in their CRM systems? Are there things around the sales forecasting systems? Are there things around RFPs? You're already hearing of organizations, as an example. I'll give you this to kind of highlight what I mean. Take any vendor that does software or IT integration or consulting was an example we used earlier, Keith. So RFP comes, organization A needs help. The consultants kind of get the RFP around it. In the past, project teams would kind of look at old proposal, old decks, combine it, figure out, and respond to that RFP. Imagine a world where there's a private LLM for that organization. It's got the world-class, kind of their best-in-class RFP responses. They have the latest industry thinking. Same proposal comes in. You then use the LLM to say, organization A has approached us. Here's the parameters. How should we respond? And you get something 80, 90% there, and then the rest comes tweaking. I think we're getting to that point where in the next year, 2 or 3, there'll be a world, Keith, where you're either an executive or a business person or a creator who's AI enabled or not. And that's where I think the separation of productivity and what you can kind of produce in the work space is going to be incredibly critical.
And I think you may have covered this, but if you didn't, I want to expand on this idea a little bit. That there was another interesting stat from the survey where you asked what level role did companies expect to have the biggest impact, and the large majority were that were the entry level and mid level employees. And, those were like the front lines, the customer service. I'm thinking the chatbots of the world. That's where the biggest impact is going to be. And you only had 5% thinking that AI would impact senior level roles, and only 1% would impact executive level roles. So I want to turn it around. I mean, I understand, companies thinking about, these are the areas we need to focus on because we've covered that before. But I wanted to go to the other end of the scale. Do these executives just think that they might be protected from the impact that AI could have on them? That they feel like, well, my role is critical thinking and planning and all this other stuff, that they feel, I don't want to call it arrogance, but is that they feel that there is some kind of protection that they would have against AI. And again, tell me what you think, and then I'll ask another question around that.
Yeah. What's that famous saying? Us as humans, we're famous for being for underestimating a lot of the future and overestimating a lot of the future.
Okay.
As well. I think my hunch, when we look back in time, I think this executive cohort is underestimating, Keith, the impact it will have.
Okay.
I think that it's incorrect. And we've seen it in versions of, if you think a year, 2 or 3 years ago, when the concept of AI, machine learning kind of came about, the thought was it'll be in very rudimentary work, never in creative thinking work, right? And that's kind of tilted. In the same way, I think a future chief revenue officer, chief financial officer, CIO, CTO, pick your executive suite and those close to it, those who are unable to leverage and understand the tool for their role in how it impacts their organization, I think there's going to be a big distance between those who understand and can apply it and those who can't, Keith. So I think in my hunch is in answering the question there is, to your point, we can quote unquote outsource customer service via a bot, and I can mentally understand that, and it makes sense. And for roles in the C-suite, would I leverage the AI or not? Probably not. I think that's how the question was answered. But I think it's fundamentally off by a magnitude pretty large. I think we're going to see a clear separation of those who know how to leverage the technology and their organizations versus those who don't.
Well, yeah, and I guess, would that lead us down the path of, will there be an AI CEO at some point, or will there be an AI CIO? And you have to then go, well, what are the tasks and roles that those people perform? And is it about the decision-making ability of being able to kind of absorb all this information and then make a decision? And I don't know if we've seen that yet with a lot of these AI models. They could certainly absorb a lot of information and summarize it. That's where we're seeing a lot of these tools succeed. But I have not yet seen an AI decision maker yet. Because, again, decisions have so many different nuances, too. So maybe that's why they're thinking that they're probably safe from this type of thing. Right. And then I've also seen, you're not going to get an AI manager because it doesn't have any empathy. And so, you have to start programming empathy into these things, too. And who knows how far along we are there. So maybe that's it. I don't know. Is there anything else that you're thinking they might?
No, that's fair. And I think, and I do think, again, going back to this underestimation of the technology, if you go back a year and a half plus, right, to ChatGPT 3, and if you think about then the kind of the error rates of the answers and the kind of latency on it and all the things and the quirks of it versus ChatGPT 4.0 now, and somewhere around the corner ChatGPT 5 is coming, and you're seeing all of these others, Grok and Microsoft Copilot and all these coming to play, Keith. My sense is this will exponentially keep getting better and better. When will it get to that point, to your point of AI CEO or AI CIO? I don't know. That's a good point. So I am unsure. What I feel pretty confident about is the concept of it as a co-pilot sitting side by side, providing you guidance and data for you to make that qualitative decision.
Yeah.
I have no doubt on that. We're exponentially heading there almost every 3 to 6 months in leaps and bounds. I don't see that stopping. But to your point, when do we get to empathy and all of these more human qualities? That I'll definitely put in the unsure.
And then that's where we get the big thinkers and the PhDs and the philosophy majors involved, and just because I think that in every case I talk about with people that love the technology of AI, they never get to that decision-making point because they don't want to cross that line of, well, I'm not going to let a machine make this decision. From the military on down, I was covering the Army when they were putting machine guns on robots, and they said the same thing. They're like, the decision to fire is still going to be, the human. It's not going to be, they're never going to give up decision-making capability. So maybe that's why the CEOs feel like they might be protected.
Could be.
Do you have examples of where you've seen some companies succeed in this developing internal talent? Like, you don't have to name any companies, but where have you seen maybe in talks with your clients where they've gone, oh, well, they did the right thing, and this is the way that all these other companies should do this too.
So I would say the consistent theme on it is, Keith, where I've seen organizations do it well, it ties into the culture of kind of innovation and trying lots of different things and kind of swerving to the left, swerving to the right.
Okay.
Of it. So, and you're seeing it, you won't be surprised. Technology organizations, consulting organizations tend to be on the tip of the spear on a lot of these topics because it's native to them.
Okay.
And because of that, you're seeing them deploy a lot of pilots and projects to figure out how they can apply it or not. So,
right.
And some publicly announced consulting organizations that have used it and have done studies of, consultants with it and consultants without it, and how productive are they, right? So you're seeing all of these things in real time.
Yeah.
While figuring out how to do it within their own four walls via a private LLM and kind of protect the data and the information. So I think those who take the position of we are not going to kind of play around with the technology and do pilots until we solve all of these very difficult problems, and then we're going to tackle them, I think are going to be caught flat-footed, because it's going to the change manage. A lot of the calls we get are, given our area of specialties, not only can you find this talent, but it's all around the org, human capital, and the change management aspect of it. So we have the technology. We need to get our kind of teams to kind of apply it and deploy it.
Yeah.
The change management associated in doing that. So there's just a lot of that.
Right. Right.
Run.
Now, do you see the wave? Even if it's not, if there's still a wave of looking at people at the top tier talent, but let's say for the sake of argument that we are seeing a slowing of this demand and this rush. Do you see that? Was that just that gold rush that happened 3 to 4 months ago? Was that a one-time thing, or is that just like maybe that was just the first wave and we're going to see another wave maybe as the technology gets integrated more, or you've now developing a lot of this internal AI talent and now they hit the market, or universities start producing even more PhDs in this, and we see another wave? Is that coming, or was this just a one-time? Try to get your money as soon as you could, as quickly as you could.
Right.
That's usually what gold rush implies, right? Get the gold before anybody else does.
Completely. Yeah. No, I would say I think we have to go back and look at past patterns of these tectonic shifts when they come to what's happened in the past, Keith, to put it under context, right? So if I go back in time from the PC revolution, PC wave, to the internet wave, to kind of consumer mobile / social, to kind of SaaS cloud, in each of those waves, I would, my read of this is as big or bigger than the internet wave, which was probably the biggest of those I had just mentioned.
Right.
And in all of those cases, there's it doesn't just kind of go top right growth per se. And there's these moments of fluctuation in time where there's, quote unquote, use your words, the gold rush on investments, people, valuations, all of those things happen. And by definition, then there comes the kind of, the dip of maybe it won't be that impactful, maybe it won't be that disruptive.
Yeah.
Comes into play. And you're seeing it now with the questions of, the big tech companies are getting the question around all of this AI investments that are going on, and it's CapEx, when are we going to get it back, and such forth. So my sense is if you pull back, these are kind of very natural. There's, dips, but in all of these major tectonic shifts, when you pull back and you look at it over kind of arc of history of years versus weeks from it'll continue. And I think this one has all the makings and all the signs of it kind of being that level of a disruptive.
Yeah, what's amazing is that as we cover each, the longer you work within the technology space, you start seeing the same thing. It's like, hype. It's almost like there's a company that calls this the hype cycle, where you have like this roller coaster effect, and you're heading for that. Am I allowed to use trough of disillusionment without getting a trademark hit?
That's right.
We keep calling it like the pits of despair, where, and then there's a plateauing out, and then something else comes along. And so, but I think most people agree that I've talked with, either on the show or off the show, feeling that this is different than just like, blockchain or cloud, or, even some of those shifts. This is a pretty big one. even if we are heading towards that disillusionment, most people think that it won't stay in the valley for a long time, that they'll figure it out.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to segment it. To your point, it's almost like, cloud and SaaS and consumer mobile and social. Those are, 6 to 8 foot waves, right? and pre-internet, post-internet is, what's the one in Tahiti they had the Olympics on, which is like one of the biggest waves in the world.
Oh, really? The surfing?
The surfing competition was held there. I put the AI wave hand in hand with the kind of pre-internet, post-internet wave. You could probably put the kind of PC manufacturing, semiconductor in that other wave as well. I put it at that size.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is if you compare it to the internet, we all lived through this internet bubble burst. I would say like in 2002-ish timeframe, or at least some of us did, and yet we're still going to be surprised when that AI bubble does the same thing, and you're going to be like, well, wait, why did that happen? You're like, it happens all the time.
Happens all the time.
Yeah. Gustavo Alba, thanks again for joining us to discuss these statistics. And again, love having you on the show. Thank you.
No, thank you. Really appreciate it, Keith.
All right, that's all the time we have for today's episode. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, add any thoughts you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.